Welcome today to the Purple Inspiration Podcast. This is a space for extraordinary women leaders who rise above the noise. Today, my guest is not only a community leader, but a state leader in California. This is Fiona Ma. Fiona is the 34th state treasurer for the state of California. She was first elected in 2018 with its 7,825,587 votes. More votes than any other candidate for treasurer in the state's history, and that's something to be proud of. She was reelected in 2022, and now she's a candidate for lieutenant governor. Fiona serves as the primary banker, administering financing for schools, roads, housing, recycling, waste management, hospitals, public facilities, and other crucial infrastructure projects that better the lives of California residents. Welcome, Fiona. We're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
Well, let's get started. I first met you when I was working for the Secretary of Labor on the federal level, Elaine Chao. And Elaine was the first Asian American woman to serve in a president's cabinet, which we were very, very proud of. You were elected state treasurer just a few years later, and you were the first woman of color and the first woman certified public accountant ever elected to the position. I find that really inspiring, particularly for other women of color and women not of color, to see you in this position. Tell me a little bit about how you have worked to mentor other women who are also seeking careers in public service.
Yes. So, number one, I always encourage women that are active or, want to do a little bit more above and beyond to try to apply for a board or a commission. The governor, for example, has over 5,500 appointments, and we and the women's community have always tried to make sure that there's a pipeline of women who are ready and willing to serve. So I would say that that is the best way to get into politics, just to get your feet wet so you understand Robert's Rules of Order and sunshine and how to conduct yourself in a meeting. And then what happens to many of us is that we look around and we say, we think we can do better than our elected official. And that's how we jump into office. So, a lot of mothers, for example, they're not happy with what's going on at school. So then they join the PTA and they become the PTA presidents. And then all of a sudden they're showing up at school board meetings, and then they run for school board. And then after that, they get the confidence to continue to run. I've also had over 1,000 interns come through my office over the past 25 years. And that's also a great opportunity to make sure that young women understand and know that government is paid by the people. We should be accessible. We should be out there helping people. And so I think that's also a first step. And then me personally, because my father really wanted me to be an accountant, he trained me when I was very young to, open up my bank account, make sure I save money. I never got allowance. I had to work for everything. Helped him pay the bills and collect the tax documents during tax time. He taught me how to invest and do covered calls. So that's what I do now when I speak to women, young women especially, just letting them know, listen, you need to understand your finances. Make sure nobody controls your money. Once they control your money, that's going to be a problem. They're going to start controlling your life. Understand what your credit score is going to be, right? Try not to go into high student loan debt if you don't have to. And I have a higher education resource guide to try to, prevent, these young people from accumulating too much debt. So, I think there's a lot of ways that I do try to help women. And then when women are running, when they would graduate from Emerge, which started when I like to say it started in my office when I was on the board of supervisors. I used to say, if you're a graduate of Emerge, then I will endorse you. No questions asked. Now there's so many graduates of Emerge. They're all running against each other sometimes. Yes. So, sometimes I have to, take a second look. But, it's so hard for women and people of color to run for office. The deck is just stacked against us, especially as a woman. It's like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, right? Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did, but backwards and in high heels. And that's how it is in most of our professions, especially in politics and in government. That's been my experience over the past 30 years.
Well, you've been amazing. And I do want to talk a little bit about that because you served in the state assembly, you served on the state board of equalization, you served on the San Francisco board of supervisors. All of these roles must have prepared you well to be state treasurer. But on top of all this, you've always been really accessible and a great friend to small business, particularly. You might remember I'm on the leadership council for NFIB, and all of our friends there really love the work that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about some of the programs that you created, and particularly those programs that were during the pandemic that really helped small businesses to survive in California.
Yeah, so during COVID, we got $28 billion from the federal government, and I had to invest that money, and it wasn't easy to invest all that money within 1 week. And then we were tasked with rolling out many of the programs, especially through our CalCap for small business, which is a loan loss reserve program. So really trying to help people who have maybe a difficult time accessing the traditional capital markets, trying to, roll out these loans, because if the borrower does not pay it back, then the state pays it back. So it's actually a good deal. And we created a resource guide for small business, which I still have today, and we update it constantly, just trying to, make the public aware, especially small business owners who are always looking for money. What is it that is out there that is, number one, free money, first and foremost. And then there's also, low interest loan programs that we have. And then we also have bond programs, for those bigger companies or those that are kind of in that expansion mode. So that's what I've been doing. And I started out in public service as the president of a small business association. So I understand how difficult it is to open a small business, to grow a small business, and to expand. And so that's still my priority in all of my different positions, is making sure that I am getting out the information to small business owners.
This is fabulous, and you emphasize what you were doing to help young women understand about obligations when they have to pay back school loans. That's such an important thing, and to really be responsible for their own financial well-being. You certainly are, as California's primary banker. You oversee an investment portfolio worth more than $165 billion. That's just a staggering figure to me. And you process $3 trillion of banking transactions per year. And because of that, the East Bay Times, which is my home newspaper, recently endorsed you in your run for lieutenant governor, talking about the scale of your work and the things you've done in the last 7 years. What are you most proud of, and what's most prepared you for that next step?
Um, I guess every job I run for, so far I haven't lost, right? I've been on the ballot 20 times. This is my fourth elected position, and I've taken the step by step by step by step. So I have really done my preparation, and I think I'm experienced and qualified. That's kind of what I bring to the table, but also I am not an office person. I like to go out and about. If you follow me on social media, you know that I go out to all parts of California. I love the rural communities because they're the ones that, are so appreciative when elected, especially statewide elected officials, come out to visit them. And so, that's what I do. I listen, I learn, and then I try to figure out what the niches are for the counties or the cities or the regions. And then when there are opportunities, investors are always asking me, where should they invest? They have this type of company, or they have these type of needs. And, I'm able to, direct them so that they, can cut through some of the red tape and hopefully, make California their home and grow here and really enjoy being here. So I think that's kind of what I bring to the table is just my experience and my relationships and the fact that I love California. I try to stay positive. All of my, social media posts are really just to promote people that are doing good work, things that people should know, opportunities that are out there. And I'm not trying to get into fights with people.
Well, that's a good thing because part of this show is really about that, building consensus. And You mentioned the rural areas, and that brings me to a story that I remember you telling me, and I remember Kristen Olson telling me, where the two of you, so Kristen, I believe at the time might have been the Republican leader in the assembly, and you were in the assembly as well, and you switched districts with her because she had a very rural district and you have a city district. What sort of prompted you to do that? What was that like? I found that fascinating as somebody that comes from a rural area myself.
I'm always open to, to new experiences. Since then I did back in 2009, when Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to balance the budget, he wanted to sell the Cow Palace, and that was in my district. And so I had, Cotton Rosser and Seth Dalton, they were running the Grand National Rodeo, and they stopped by at 3 o'clock on a Friday before the big event to let me know that I needed to do something to help save the Cow Palace. And I was like, okay, I grew up on the East Coast. I had no agriculture background, didn't really, understand, what the meaning was of the Cow Palace. And so then, like a smart ass that I am, I'm always like, how come you didn't invite me to your event? And so they said, okay, well, come. What are you doing at 6 o'clock? And I'm like, nothing. And so I went down to the Cow Palace, and, they put me up on a horse, and they had to change, the announcement because I kicked Christy Yamaguchi off her horse. There's only 6 horses. And I said, I'm sorry, Christy, I'm just going to, wave to the crowd. And so they ran up and they had the announcer say, and our new assemblywoman, Fiona Ma, she's going to save the Cow Palace. And I was like, oh, okay, game on. So, sometimes I don't know, like I put myself in a situation and it opens up other doors, especially if I don't understand something. I will go down a rabbit hole deep because when people ask me a question or they want my opinion, like I want to have facts, real facts, not just, spouting whatever, someone said on the news. And so that's what happened with agriculture. Out of 400 products that we make and grow here in California, I've done about 260 tours. Wow. And recently started the Farm Bureau, San Francisco Farm Bureau, about 2.5 years ago, really to educate our San Franciscans about how difficult it is to grow food, to be a farmer and a rancher. And after COVID and after what happened with Ukraine, where they lost their main food supply, region, I doubled down. I said, I don't want to have to depend on other counties, other states, other countries for our food supply. So that's why I started the San Francisco Farm Bureau. Coming up next week, June 7th, we are going to have a mushroom demonstration. They're going to bring their own kits. And that's, that's kind of my passion also is agriculture and maintaining our food source here in California.
That is fabulous. So I really enjoyed that story. I have to say, Christy Yamaguchi lives in the town next to me.
Okay.
And I know one of her best friends is a store owner in Danville. So she's a fabulous, wonderful person. So
yeah. So then I didn't answer this. So Kristen, because I was starting to go into these rural areas, when she said, hey, why don't you come to my district and I'll show you around, some of the things that, that my constituents do, I go, great. And then I said, vice versa, why don't you come to San Francisco and I'm going to show you what, some of the things that are happening, in my district. So that's kind of how it happened.
Well, I thought that was a fabulous story. And I'm so glad that both of you did that. A lot of people now won't reach across the aisle and it's become more and more difficult. So I applaud you and I appreciate you for doing that. Let's move to affordability. We all know in California, housing is virtually unaffordable in California. Healthcare, gas taxes, everything is kind of inflated here in many ways. What have you done in your current role as state treasurer to make to build more affordable housing and to make the state more affordable? And let's talk about that new Disney license plate you just announced to raise funds for children's hospitals across the state.
Yes. So, I am the banker. Like you said, I take in over $3 trillion every year, probably more now since we are, up at a $4 trillion GDP. manage a short-term portfolio. It's about 250 billion, and then issue all the bonds for the state of California, the UC and the CSU systems. And then I fund and finance affordable housing, public transportation, schools, hospitals, children's hospitals, and the like. So in affordable housing, I oversee all the tax credit and bonds that goes to subsidize truly affordable housing. And over the past 8 years, we really focused on new construction for extremely low and very low individuals, about 50% AMI and below. But it is not easy because, to put together this big project for 350 residents who are paying, at way below market value, it takes a big capital stack, right? It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. And I am the last two parts in the middle. That is, at the top of the financing stack. So, I'm very proud that under my leadership, we have created different pools to make it more equitable. Before, the big cities used to get most of the tax credit and the bonds, and now we make it. We try to, make sure that the rural communities, some of the smaller cities, also around the big cities, also have access, to those credit and bonds. We also, set aside money for veterans, for people with disabilities, for BIPOC developers, because many of the housing that's being built does not look like the communities that are the developers don't look like the communities that they're building in. So really trying to, give them a little bit more access to this precious capital. And then I also oversee all the bonds that have been passed by the state of California. So California has passed 3 initiatives to support our children's hospitals, and bar none, our children's hospitals are the best in the world. So if you have complications or a special disease, California is the best. So because of that, I work with all the children's hospitals, but there's also more need, right? Especially what's happening, at the federal level. Our hospital systems are going to be impacted, but then the children's hospitals also need more money for research and development, for families, whose kids, have to come to the hospital more often. The high cost of everything, living for these families, taking care of their young ones. So that's what this new Disney license plate is going to go toward. After administration costs, then all of the net proceeds are going to go back to the 13 children's hospitals to fund many of the programs that they still, want to fund.
That is fabulous. And I just have to, give a shout out. So I do some work for a nonprofit called Tri-Valley Reach, and they actually work with cities to get the most truly affordable housing for adults with developmental disabilities, so that they can live on their own. And we own, I think, 13 homes and house almost 45 individuals. And it's just so amazing to me. I'm so glad to know that you have programs that help do that good work. It's really, really important. So
so those group homes are so important, right? And I think we're going to expand the number of residents, right, from 6 to 10 residents, just because the need is growing.
It's absolutely growing. And the more, to your point on children's hospitals, the more that we know and the more that we can diagnose, the better we can serve. So
exactly.
All goes together.
Early prevention is key, and we don't spend a lot of money on the front end, but we will fund, when you need a transplant, right? Or you get cancer, but why aren't we funding preventative services on the front end?
Well, I'm so appreciative of the job that you do as state treasurer, and, have just really watched your career and watched all the great work you've done. You work hard. You're everywhere. I just saw you in San Ramon about a month ago, and I'm just so appreciative of that. What's the biggest takeaway that you want people to know as in your quest for to run for lieutenant governor? We happen to know that primary next week. So what do you want people to know?
Yeah. The amount of ballots that have been turned in is very, very low. I think it's only 2 million out of 24 million. So I hope people are not going to hold on to their ballots too long because we only have 6 days left. Do not put it in the mail. Okay, the Postal Service is having problems, financial issues, so please drop it in a official ballot mailbox or bring it to your city hall or your in-place voting site that is going to be open this weekend, starting from this weekend to Tuesday. I think I'd like people to know that, I am committed public servant. This is my passion and my calling. I love to help people. I like to solve problems. I like to work on big problems. And based on my experience and my qualifications, I am ready to lead as Lieutenant Governor on day one. So I hope that you will all continue to support me, and I will do my best, the best job that I can to work hard and to make you all proud.
Well, Fiona, you are one of my favorite departments in California, and I'm so proud that we had you join us today. Thank you so much for joining us on Purple Inspiration. Best of luck to you. And, just my heart goes out to you for all the great work you've done over the years as public servant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy. And you too. Thank you for being the leader that you are.
Thank you.